10th. California has risen up against Donald Trump. The state governor has openly gone to battle with Donnie, Putin, Trump, and in Los Angeles a real war has begun. Gunfire.
You just shut the fuck up! You okay?
Street fighting. Flashbang grenades. The police are using tear gas to disperse the protesters. It's already the 4th day in Los Angeles. People are blocking the streets with chairs and garbage bins. They're fighting and tearing apart those depicting Trump. June 10th, and for the 4th day now, Los Angeles has risen up against Donald Trump. Unrest continues in Los Angeles as protests against immigration raids have escalated into riots. Protesters are throwing stones at law enforcement officers and setting police cars on fire. In response, the authorities are using tear gas and rubber bullets. To suppress the unrest, US President Donald Trump has sent 2 Zero National Guard troops to Los Angeles. This is the first time since 1965 that Washington has sent the National Guard to a state without consulting local authorities. It's simply a dictatorial regime. Riots broke out in Los Angeles because of raids against illegal immigrants. Protesters are setting cars on fire and throwing stones and sticks at law enforcement officers. National Guard troops have been sent to the city to suppress the unrest. Donald Trump wants to crush the uprising. He wants to bring 2 Zero National Guard soldiers into Los Angeles after an unprecedented clash following an attempt to arrest 44 migrants. California Governor Gavin Newsom called the actions of the Trump administration illegal and urged the cancellation of the president's order to deploy 2 Zero National Guard troops. In Los Angeles County, he noted that local law enforcement agencies did not need any assistance. Newsom, he accused Trump of trying to create a crisis and violating the sovereignty of the state of California. Essentially, Trump has invaded the independence and democracy of the United States of America. Trump is following in Putin's footsteps. This is the action of a dictator, not a president, wrote the California governor on social network X. Trump sent in troops to create chaos and violence, and Trump succeeded. The situation has been destabilized, and now we need even more law enforcement just to restore order after Trump. That's what the governor wrote. Well, and the president of the United States, dictator Trump, intends to fire the governor through the courts. Friends, mass protests in the United States of America, in California and Los Angeles began on June 6, when in the small city of Paramount, whose population is 80% Latino, the authorities started conducting raids. Donald Trump is turning into Russia's dictator, Putin. Thousands of people took to the streets, dissatisfied with immigration policy. Protesters are throwing stones and sticks at the police, setting cars and American flags on fire. During the protests, people burned 5 unmarked vehicles. The main demand of the demonstrators is to stop the raids by US Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Take a look at these scenes of a protesting America, of protesting California and Los Angeles. America is rising up against Trump. It is unknown how many more cities will stand up against his inadequate policies here. The police are using stun grenades and tear gas to disperse protesters in Los Angeles on the third and fourth days. People are blocking the streets with chairs and garbage bins. On the 101 freeway, in protest against immigration raids, the crowd is burning driverless taxis and tearing apart effigies of Donald Trump. The Central Police Station has declared an alert as the situation has gotten out of control. The police are asking residents to leave the area of the unrest. Currently, the intersection of Figueroa Street and 11th Center is blocked. The Minister of Defense has announced readiness to deploy 500 Morpheus and 2 Zero National Guardsmen. I am instructing that all necessary measures be taken to free Los Angeles from the migrant incursion and to put an end to these migrant riots. Order will be restored, the illegals will be expelled, and Los Angeles will be free, said US President Donald Trump. It feels as if we just heard Vladimir Putin.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
Friends, the fall of the Trump regime, his complicated relationship with Elon Musk, the mass protests that have swept through Los Angeles and California. We'll discuss all of this with the President of the Assembly of the Peoples of the Caucasus, Ruslan Kutayev, right now.
Well, we should start by reminding our viewers that both the mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, and the governor of California are members of the Democratic Party. And perhaps it's appropriate to begin our discussion with the governor's statement, who said, "We didn't have any problems until Trump interfered in our affairs, the affairs of our state." And here you were absolutely right to mention E-2000 National Guard troops have now been deployed and stationed, and their visible presence in the state of California, as both the mayor of Los Angeles and the governor firmly believe, will not bring order, but on the contrary, will only cause chaos and ultimately lead to further unrest. It should also be noted here that the governor specifically stated he would sue Trump because Trump violated the law of the United States of America. The deployment of National Guard troops is only possible after the governor appeals to the President of the United States. And here it's important for our viewers to understand both the governor and the mayor of Los Angeles are Democrats, and they believe that the Republican Trump is deliberately provoking unrest, that he is intentionally escalating the situation in this state. And these two sides decide of President Trump and the side of the Californian Democratic activists, and leaders are suspicious of each other, specifically regarding the issue of who is escalating the situation, who is bringing things to this state. It should also be recalled here that operations were carried out by immigration and customs services, as well as the police in California, and it was precisely from this that these disturbances in support of those people who were forcibly being arrested, detained, and subsequently deported and expelled from the United States of America.
Ruslan Khamovdievich, what could this lead to? Because right now, as we analyze this, these riots have so far only erupted in Los Angeles. Could they flare up in a number of other cities? That is, raids against illegal migrants at this moment. Now, protesters are setting cars on fire, throwing stones and sticks at law enforcement. Troops from the National Guard have been deployed to the city to suppress the unrest. The mass protests began on June 6, when in the small city of Paramount, where 80% of the population is Latino, the authorities started conducting raids, and thousands of people dissatisfied with immigration policy took to the streets. Protesters are pelting police officers with stones and sticks, setting cars and American flags on fire. During the protest, people set fire to 5 driverless taxi cars. The main demand of the demonstrators is to stop the raids by the US Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Could all of this turn into chaos for America and escalate into larger protests and riots?
There is a serious danger here. I want to remind our viewers that the United States of America consists of 50 states, and there is roughly parity about 25 to 25. 25 Republican states, 25, well, there are some neutral ones. But to put it simply, about 25 are Republican. So in this active confrontation between Republicans and Democrats, there could be a wave of discontent, somewhere more active, somewhere less so. And these migrants, this is only intensifying, only increasing. So just imagine in democratic states when Democrats not only support migrants, but may even provoke them, in fact, to go out, rally, and protest. And in this way, this wave could very seriously and quickly sweep across a number of states where we can roughly assume that half of the states in the United States could flare up with protest rallies against Trump, against his immigration policy. And this is a real possible reality that we need to be prepared for. Why? Because even those people who voted for these pre-election points of Trump's immigration policy are now dissatisfied. Why? Because right from the start, as soon as they began implementing Trump's immigration program, they started sending completely innocent people to El Salvador. From there, when a court decision is made for their return, they refuse and they are sent back. From the very beginning, Trump, his law enforcement agencies, his appointees have been quite shameless. There's no other word for it in breaking the law. And when they are caught doing this, when the court makes a ruling, they refuse to comply with the court's decision. And all of this together creates a certain mood in America. That is, hey, people who in principle were ready to accept these new Trump-era migrant conditions are now afraid. They're afraid because they themselves could end up, through no fault of their own, caught in the gears of Trump's, let's say, crackdowns that he's carrying out. That's why I think these protests have potential. They could escalate and put serious pressure on the authorities. Moreover, there are accompanying conditions for this. The Democrats are not against such rallies. The Democrats are not opposed to discrediting the Republican Party and showing its inability to govern the United States of America.
Dear audience, please like this video. Write in the comments what you think about the mass protests against Donald Trump's policies. What do you think about the conflict between Musk and Trump? Do you think the Senate could go against the administration and impose severe sanctions against Russia? In general, do you think Trump could be squeezed from all sides? Meanwhile, according to the Central Police, the use of flashbang grenades, rubber bullets, and tear gas was authorized to disperse violators in the Temple Street and Main Street area. The scenes, of course, are truly horrifying. On Highway 101, the crowd in protest against immigration raids is burning driverless taxis and tearing apart effigies of Trump. The Central Police Station has declared an alert as the situation has gotten out of control. The police are asking residents to leave the area where the unrest is taking place. Right now, a huge number of intersections have been blocked off. Shalom Hamdech, what do you think about the war between Trump and Musk? Can Musk destroy Trump, even though right now, due to the protests, Musk has taken Trump's side? But they say the conflict is very serious. And in general, Elon Musk might be able to split the Senate and destroy the Republican Party by creating something of his own. What is your analysis? What do you think?
I think, first of all, we anticipated and expected that this conflict would happen. Moreover, the time frame for this was also predicted quite accurately. They gave it about 6 months before Trump and Musk would part ways, because these are two personalities focused on profit, on results, on their own interests, and they couldn't coexist for long, since each of them has a rather significant personal stake, the interests of their families, their businesses, and they couldn't coexist. So what happened was to be expected. Now, even Elon Musk's father has stated that he sides with the President of the United States. At the same time, he's in Moscow. He flew to Moscow. He's making these complimentary statements, giving interviews. Moscow is calm here. There are kindergartens, children, and so on. It seems to me that the picture we're being shown and what is actually happening are very different. There's a serious and significant gap between them. No matter how much Elon Musk's father insists that he supports Trump, I don't believe it. Most likely, this is just a game intended to try to get his son out of the rather blatant persecution by President Trump. And when people ask whether it's possible for them to, let's say, reconcile in a new way, yes, I don't rule it out. Yes, they can talk about distrust on camera. It's already that serious. They will never trust each other. I'll be honest with you, when they are opponents, it's actually much easier for them than if they try to present an image of being together again and so on. Because when they're close to each other, each of them can deliver a devastating blow to the other. There is distrust between them. And as for expecting Elon Musk to be loyal to Trump, that's not something you should count on. You have to understand here, Trump will suffer serious, truly significant losses because Silicon Valley, these billionaires are more connected to Musk. It was he who brought them in. And we should remind our viewers that Vice President Vance is not Trump's man. He's a man of Silicon Valley. In fact, why did they bring him in? The old man will soon kick the bucket and the vice president will become president and they'll implement their own agenda. So this is not just a conflict between Musk and Trump, it's a conflict among billionaires who in principle have backed Trump and his administration. We know there are rumors going around. I don't know how true they are. Either Trump himself said it or it's just talk that Musk was hit because the US Secretary of the Treasury went after him. It's clear that Rubio is also against Elon Musk. They've had a conflict for a long time. So all of this together won't strengthen Trump. It will actually weaken him. Going forward, Musk may not act as emotionally or openly, but he won't just put obstacles in Trump's way. He will actively oppose him. And for Trump personally, for his power, this will cause a lot of harm. And finally, one more thing related to Elon Musk. We need to understand as a theory. Before the year 2000, Musk visited Moscow. He tried to secure support in Moscow so that his rockets could be launched into space, specifically satellites into space using Russian state rockets. He tried to meet with Putin, but he met with the FSB. And there has always been the question, why is Russia putting so much pressure on Trump? And maybe, is it possible that they're exerting this pressure through Elon Musk? And why did Musk's father suddenly appear in Moscow during this conflict? Under some pretext. There are a lot of serious questions here. If this lever, this tool for pressuring Trump is Musk, then it's good that they're drifting apart, going their separate ways. In that case, Ukraine and Europe can count on some support or at least hope that Trump won't actively cooperate with or be an ally to Russia. That's why a lot more questions arise here. And at the same time, we understand that these two players and their split is not the end of the story. I think this play will go on, and we as spectators will continue to watch how they interact. These are two very serious figures. One is a billionaire, one of the richest people in the world, and the other is a sitting president with 3.5 years left in his term. He too can cause a lot of trouble and do damage to Elon Musk. We'll be watching. There is a conflict, and hopefully this conflict will benefit Ukraine and the free world.
Dear audience, just for your understanding, Elon Musk has invested $300 million in the Republican Party. He is the #1 donor and sponsor. Moreover, according to the calculations of Yevhen Cherniak, a well-known Ukrainian businessman, he has lost 140 to 160 billion because of this ex-war with Trump. So essentially, Elon Musk has lost a great deal because of Donald Trump's politics. And this bill that the Trump administration is preparing is very destructive for Elon Musk's companies because it proposes to eliminate government quotas and government funding and therefore subsidies for Elon Musk's companies. Moreover, there are also tariffs that have been imposed on China and other countries. Trump is harming Musk's companies because Musk uses a huge amount of spare parts, components, and raw materials from China, and this is also very problematic for him. Shahram Khamdich, I would like to pause with you on one more point. This is the fact that Elon Musk's father flew in more detail and arrived in Moscow for a forum organized by the Russian ideologue and propagandist Alexander Dugin. How much of a red flag is this, considering that Elon Musk is helping Ukraine with Starlinks? Well, not for free. And his father flew to the aggressor country, the number one terrorist, to Moscow.
This is really concerning. After all, he didn't go to visit any so-called liberals or Democrats, at least not those who are publicly known as such. He went to see the Hawks. Dugin is involved there, Lavrov, well, that's Andreeva, known for her chauvinistic, nationalist, and fascist policies. And if these people are inviting him today and he comes to join them, sighing and marveling, inspired by the idea that everything in Russia is beautiful, good, a strong and powerful state, this shows at the very least that they have a complementary attitude toward each other. And there is, let's say, some kind of shared interest. And if these interests are made explicit, let's say through the Russian side supporting Elon Musk, that's very bad news for us. At the same time, if Elon Musk really does openly take the Russian side, Trump will have no choice but to openly support the Ukrainian side. But Trump isn't doing that. For us, it was truly shocking news when Biden allocated 20,000 missiles to fight against these lethal Russian dronesno for Ukraine. Trump cancels that and sends them to the Middle East. In other words, not only does he not provide support himself, but he even redirects the weapons and ammunition already allocated to Ukraine elsewhere. And so here, both Trump's behavior and Elon Musk's behavior, if they suddenly come to some sort of agreement that would be way too much, it would be over the top. Here, all we can do is count on and hope that maybe precisely because of the conflict, because they've ended up in such a standoff and mutual distrust, maybe that will actually work out positively for us. For the Ukrainian side,
Shahram Khamdich. Now let's move on to the Senate. We know that for almost more than 10 or 12 days now, Lindsey Graham and Blumenthal have been in Kyiv. And last week they promised to impose hellish sanctions on countries that buy raw materials, oil products and oil from Russia. That is 500% tariff. I spoke with Americanists and they all say that, of course, it's unrealistic to introduce 500% tariffs. Most likely the bill will be amended. At most, they might impose a 50% tariff, but even that, they aren't actually imposing. Shahram Khamdich, what do you think? Will the Senate, will Lindsey Graham, a Trump ally, go against Trump's policy, against the administration? Will the Senate impose hellish sanctions, secondary ones on the Russian Federation, maybe not even 500%, but less? Or will the Trump administration still put serious pressure on the Senate?
The Trump administration is currently putting pressure on the Senate. They are pressuring them specifically to ensure that they, the key players, go along with the decisions of Trump and his administration. But the question here is also a bit different. To what extent will the Senate and in fact Congress as a whole tie themselves to Trump? It all depends on how much trust Trump will have, on whether his let's say his stock, I'm talking about political stock here, will hold up or at least stabilize and not continue to decline. I don't think that Republican senators and congressmen will tie themselves to Trump and go down with him. I think a little more time will pass and events in America are unfolding not in Trump's favor. They're moving in a negative direction for him. And when it becomes obvious that being associated with Trump for the upcoming, since, as we know, the midterm elections will already take place next year, and when the senators see that even being associated with Trump, even as Republicans, is dangerous and toxic for them, they will abandon him and they will start making decisions. We know that they have stated that both Republicans and Democrats together jointly created and prepared this law. 82 people, that's a qualified majority. They can even override Trump's veto. So everything depends on what Trump's approval rating will be. Everything depends on these very days. Literally, everything is being checked daily in America. And if in the near future, Trump's approval rating, the trust in Trump starts to fall, the Senate, contrary to the wishes and desires of Trump and his administration, I think they will make a decision in favor of Ukraine. Here, it should be mentioned that there is an underlying assumption that Rubio is still trying to get this document passed. Why? Because he himself is a former senator. He has, good relationships in the Senate. He knows everyone there. So Rubio, as someone competing with Vance as a possible successor and nominee from the Republican Party in the next US presidential election, is trying to play his own game. And just imagine when he finally mobilizes the senators, they will make this decision, and this decision will be, let's say, crucial for Ukraine's victory. In that case, Rubio is already, you could say, the white knight that just needs to mount up and ride into America and the White House. So it's impossible to make any definite judgments yet because the situation is still unfolding. It's unclear which way things will go, but the trend is moving in a negative direction for Trump, so we'll have to wait and see. I hope and I still expect that by the end of this month, if the current trend of declining ratings and growing distrust toward Trump continues, the Senate will pass this law.
Ruslan Magievich, when analyzing, of course, that the New York elections will already take place in the fall of 2025, I checked, it's November 4, 2025, and most likely the Republican Party candidate who will be associated with Trump will suffer a loud defeat. And this too, surely, as all Americanists are predicting, will be a signal that the Republicans will start distancing themselves from Trump, and that being a Trumpist or being with Trump or being MAGA will generally mean defeat. The Republican Party will be experiencing a kind of revival, returning to the Reagan-era Republicans. Do you think that in the future, Trump will basically be squeezed on all fronts? This is for the final question.
I think so, yes. And we have to understand that Washington, New York, Los Angeles are cities where Democrats traditionally have their majority, where people have sympathies for and support the Democrats. And that's why all the necessary conditions are now being created so that the Democrat really wins in these elections. And if this victory turns out to be quite convincing, a brilliant victory, as you rightly emphasized, then for the Republicans, the Reaganites, who are basically trying to remain neutral right now, not to leave completely, but at the same time, not to get into conflict with Trump, but when they see the toxicity of Trump, the toxicity of MAGA, which is just a handful of fanatics, maybe 20 people, the group isn't that big in that case. I think a split in the Republican Party is inevitable. And don't forget Elon Musk's statement. He promised that he would support the Democrats and do everything he could to cause a split in the Republican Party. And he not only financed, but also, for example, in the state of Pennsylvania, ensured Trump's victory there. He also supported many different senators and congressmen. And so all things considered, everything points to the fact that things are not working in Trump's favor, but are most likely benefiting the Democratic Party.
Friends, please like this video. Write a few kind words in support of Ukraine in the comments. Share your thoughts about the video from Los Angeles, where protests are taking place against Donald Trump's immigration policy, about his possible impeachment, and about the conflict between Musk and Trump. In the comments, write a few warm words in support of Ukraine, and also let us know where you're watching from. I regularly meet with the President of the Assembly of the Peoples of the Caucasus, Ruslan Kutayev, on my YouTube channel. Ruslan Magievich, thank you. And as always, see you again soon.